Hey guys, we are back with another Power Rangers Lightning Collection review, taking a look at what is on any given day probably my favorite core MMPR character, so I'm really happy we finally got this one. We are taking a look at Billy Cranston, the Blue Ranger. So we've got him here in our standard Lightning Collection packaging, figure in the window, some stylized artwork that wraps around from the front to the spine, and then the back of the box, as usual, has that CG style render of the figure with all of his accessories. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our Blue Ranger, Billy Cranston, one that I have really been looking forward to. I mean, obviously I want to build out the full MMPR crew, and we really only have one more to go because we need a regular Black Ranger. But this is one that I've really wanted because blue was always my favorite as a kid. Blue at the time was like supreme when it came to colors. It was always my favorite color. He's the Triceratops, and he's the nerdy guy, and that, I guess, resonated with me because I guess you might imagine, kind of a nerdy kid. So yeah, this is definitely one that I've been looking forward to, and I think we've got a really solid figure here. Obviously, there is a lot of reuse going on with this figure, but I think they got a lot right with this one as well. Chief among them comes down to color, because I think the blue on this figure just pops really well. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around as usual. It is, of course, going to be a standard figure for the line, but that's not a bad thing. So the head can look up. He can look down. You've got not much tilt on this head, just a little bit. And then you've got full rotation. Arms go out at the shoulders. They do rotate, of course. You've got your butterfly joint. We've got our bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and then you've got your rotation and hinges at those wrists. So you've got, what are these? These are both lateral, horizontal, side-to-side hinges. We've got our diaphragm cut, so it goes backwards, forwards, side-to-side, rotation, in conjunction with an ab crunch, which I still love. So he goes all the way back, and then he goes all the way forward, which works really well. I'm a big fan of this system. Legs go out, they kick forward, they kick backwards slightly. You've got your thigh cut, we've got our double jointed knees, and then you've got a boot cut, and then you've got rocker, and you've got hinges down there. So pretty much par for the course when it comes to this particular line. He is really unencumbered. Nothing really gets in the way of moving this guy around. Everything works just as well as every other MMPR male figure that we've gotten so far, and pretty much all the other ones that don't have any extra stuff on this sculpt. Since he's just in a spandex suit, he moves really well. As far as the aesthetics go, it's kind of more of the same. He is a very standard figure, at least as far as this line goes. There's not a great deal to talk about here. So if you've seen, you know, Red Ranger, you know what's going on here. If you've seen the Green Ranger or the Black Ranger, you know what's going on here. Of course, those two had shields, but you get my drift. It's all still very much the same because he is just a standard figure for this line with the diamond pattern on the chest and the cuffs for the wrists and, of course, the boots. But he looks really good. And one thing that I've had kind of an issue with here and there throughout this line is kind of color separation when it comes to the torsos and the limbs. He looks really good. You know, I go back to the Pink Ranger as my example. I never actually did a review of her, but her torso on my figure is almost purple. It's so miscolored. This one looks really good. The actual blue meshes nicely with the limbs as far as the legs and the arms go. The diamonds are really crisp and clean. Of course, you do have to contend with the fact we have a butterfly joint, so you've got white that kind of, you know, throws off the aesthetics a little bit, but at the same time, that's kind of the way it goes. So I'm not too upset about that. The buckle on his belt is really nicely done. You can make out a very small Triceratops in there. And then the diamonds on the wrist and boot cuffs are all really well done. So it's again, more of the same standard stuff for this line, but it looks good. Everything's really crisp and clean. The color is really vibrant and saturated, and I can't get over just how blue this thing is. He is super blue, and I really dig it. I think it works well. And again, he pops just against other figures, and then just the white and the blue clashes nicely to just to give him a good shelf presence. And the same goes for the helmet. I think this is really well done, proportioned nicely. It seems to be sized really well. I do have a few issues with some of the helmets here and there, like Red Ranger, for instance, definitely looks off. But the blue here looks really nice. I'm pretty happy with the colors on it. The silver piping above the visor looks good. The horns look really nice, and then the eyes are that nice kind of almost ambery gold color. And the mouth is really well done. It's a good looking helmet sculpt. Everything's really crisp and clean. No paint issues, no mishaps. Everything is basically where it needs to be. And this one looks, as far as I'm concerned, about as good as it needs to for this line. Now, as far as accessories goes, this figure is, in general, pretty stacked. It has a lot of stuff, honestly. There's quite a few accessories because of how his weapon works in particular. So, to start with, we do have our unhelmeted head sculpt, and this one's kind of interesting because I really think they're going for a very early Billy, where he's like super dorky and super nerdy, and it does come through pretty well. Honestly, I think the head sculpt here is pretty decent. It very much kind of looks like David Yost to me. It's not 100% like pretty much the entire line. Most of them kind of missed the mark just a little bit, but this one actually looks pretty good. I've seen it getting a lot of flack, but I think for what they may be going for, it's not too bad. I still never intend to use it, but I think it's all right. And then we've got, what do we have? We have a couple extra hands. So he's got gripping hands in the box. You've got a set of fists as well. And then we've got his blade blaster. But of course, it's always in the gun mode, which I still really do not like because that's not how they holstered them. I don't like them to the point where I honestly don't really use them. So you've got the gun, and it looks fine. It's the same sculpt that we've seen, red with a little white accents, and it fits into the holster just fine. I just wish we had both versions like we got with that SDCC set. I really want a non-transformed blade blaster in those holsters. That's like my one big hang up here. And then we've got his power lance. So we got this big guy here, and it does have good size on it. I mean, it goes up to his shoulders roughly, blue with some silver accents. Looks really good. Size looks good. I'm happy with the way it kind of fits and just overall scales with him. And then we've got the actual, broken part. So you've got the smaller version here that he can handle in a two-handed stance. So you've got two distinct weapons here, and then you've got one that's fully combined and extended. And of course, he has a effect piece. So you've got this translucent blue lightning effect, which, as usual, I have forgotten where this one comes from, but we've seen it a number of times. Blue, translucent, works really well. Wrap it around the lance or whatever you want to do. Bash some putties with it, the whole 9 yards. But he does have a lot of stuff here. I mean, head, hands, and a whole smattering of weapons. The only real hang-up for me is still this guy. I just wish we had the other version. So, yeah, not a whole lot more to say on this one. He is more of the same when it comes to Lightning Collection, but again, that is not a negative. He moves really well. He is on par with the best of the figures in this line. He looks fantastic. I think everything about the overall design for this suit works really well in this particular figure. Colors are vibrant. The helmet looks really good. And then he comes with a good array of accessories. There's really nothing missing for this particular figure. He's got extra hands, the extra head sculpt, both versions of the weapon, and he has an effect piece. And that's one thing I love about this particular line is all the effects we're getting. And I'm glad to get another one in a blue color scheme. So yeah, I'm happy with the way this one turned out for sure. All we need now is a standard Black Ranger, and I'm going to be really happy. So that's going to do it for this look at the Power Rangers Lightning Collection MMPR Blue Ranger. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.